Hi, this is Catherine Messick, and I am responding to the disproportionality activity. I'd like to apologize for getting this turned in about 12 hours late. On Valentine's Day, I slipped in my own driveway here in Kansas City, and I have a radial head fracture in my arm. It's been a rough couple of days, and so my mobility has been a little bit diminished, and obviously I've been in quite a bit of pain. I completely understand if points are taken off because I turned this in on Sunday and not Saturday. Basically, to start off with, according to the NEA publication, Truth in Labeling Disproportionality in Special Education, the definition of disproportionality is the overrepresentation and underrepresentation of a particular population or demographic. This could be in special services, or this could be also in gifted education for higher achieving students. Basically, the overall student population, in many cases, this would apply to like minorities or Black students, basically culturally and linguistically diverse, so CLD students. They're both not in the least restrictive environment, and they're also not in an appropriate setting. Thus, this is not meeting LRE or FAPE. Misidentification is one of the leading problems in special education and leads to disproportionality. So according to Dr. Federico Waitoller, the PhD and assistant professor in special education from the University of Illinois at Chicago College of Education, in his YouTube clip or video clip, he talks about the overrepresentation of Black students in special education tends to be in areas that are more subjective, meaning like teachers are kind of, I guess it's more their opinion that these students need to be in special education. And so they're not actually getting the quality, non-discriminatory evaluation that they're supposed to be getting, so the NDEs. And so in that situation, this is kind of being left up to more opinion and possibly discriminatory evidence to suggest that these students actually need to be in special education. And so they're kind of being denied that just the basic evaluation process and having a thorough evaluation to be able to come up with a definitive diagnosis. So labeling a student as disabled when they're really not leads to a lot of unwarranted services and supports. Misidentified students are more likely to encounter limited access to quality curriculum, diminished expectations overall, and ideas of achievement, not being able to live up to their potential because they have that kind of false impression that the child's intelligence is lower, and so therefore the goals that they may set for themselves or that others may set for them would then in turn be much lower, and the expectations would be much lower. I found the video how the school to prison pipeline runs young lives to be incredibly mind-opening. Basically, it claims that 32% of youth in juvenile detention are special needs, and that 95% of out-of-school suspensions are for non-violent offenses. If it's a nonviolent offense, I would think that some sort of behavioral plan would be able to be implemented within the school district to prevent this, and that if this is true, then why are we not trying to facilitate their needs and try to help with these behaviors and behavioral supports and include these kinds of things in their IEPs so that they're not being pushed out on the streets with out-of-school suspensions for things that are part of their disability, which are behaviors that, manifest because of their disability, which explains the school to prison pipeline of that being 32% of juveniles in detention systems being special needs. So clearly we're not doing our job there. Of course, the incredibly high number of incarcerations in the United States is also very indicative of that. So according to the New York Times article, the last one that I kind of read through, is special education racist? It kind of brought up some other different types of interesting information. Basically, Black students are 1.4 times more likely to be in special education as compared to their white peers. But then now there's like this whole trend to make sure that we are being more proportional, I guess, in the way that we are putting people into special education. And so we are so afraid of overrepresenting or underrepresenting and that disproportionality part of it that we're actually missing people that should be in the system. And we're actually not getting kids that really should be in the special education system because we're now afraid that we're also not being appropriate. So at the end of the day, like, I think that the biggest takeaway from all of this information is that why are we not treating each child as an individual? And why are we not deciding what's best for each individual child without the concern and the bias of race and disproportionality? Why aren't we just going back through and saying, okay, this kid, it doesn't matter if he's Black or Latino or if he's white or of Native American ancestry. Why at the end of the day are we not saying, okay, this kid needs to be in special ed, or this kid needs a real evaluation to find out what's going on, or this kid instead needs some sort of behavioral plan and not be put on special education because they don't have the need for that. I mean, there's so many different ways that we need to be looking at the individual and what kind of free and appropriate public education we can provide them, what kind of least restrictive environment we can provide them, and definitely how do we evaluate them in a non-discriminatory way that's an actual evaluation and not just a kind of generalized reporting from, some sort of teacher. Okay, I think I covered a lot of the topics. Like I said, sorry this got turned in a little bit late due to circumstances a little out of my control this week. So, thanks.